Hi, this is Dr. Scott Langford. I'm in the English department at Foothill College, and I am thrilled to welcome you to another event in our 2021 API Heritage Month event calendar. We've been celebrating all month already, and I've already hosted some of these events. We had a fantastic opening ceremony with wonderful and incredible music. We had a really searing and intense discussion last week with Mei Chai, who's the San Francisco State University Associate Professor and an anti-Asian hate activist. Been to campus many times. And I'm so thrilled to welcome, I'm scrolling down to today, I'm so thrilled to welcome former Foothill student, former Foothill College employee, and now current sort of like rising best-selling author and success coach and academic coach, and who's begun not only on a local but a nationwide level to really carve out a platform and a voice to advocate for South Asian women, but really for women, all women out there in the world of education, in the world of business, and in the world of global citizenship. So let me begin by saying welcome back to Foothill College virtually, Sneha Gandhi White.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott. Thank you for having me, everyone. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and I think I'll just add a few little facts that I know, and then I do want to ask you about your journey from Foothill forward, and even before Foothill. So we'll start with that. But I do want to mention, so after Foothill College, which is where I met Sneha, roughly a decade ago, is that kind of in the ballpark? Yep. I get hazy in my age with these things.
Exactly.
And Sneha was already an amazing student. She transferred to Santa Clara and then to Loyola
Marymount University. Did not go to University. I wanted to, but
yes. down in South, down in South, and she's also got now a master's degree in education, and she's and she worked as a teacher for some years in an urban inner city classroom with middle school aged students, which is an amazing thing to do. So she's had the experience of tutoring at Foothill College, of teaching in an inner city school, coaching online now, and has a really vivid presence online. So I want to recommend her Facebook page and her LinkedIn page, and I'm sure that Sneha will be giving us a little tour elsewhere, but those are some of the facts that I wanted to highlight. And then that's a nice transition, Sneha, into tell me about all the stuff I left out. We do really want, we're here for API Heritage Month,
right?
But we really do want to hear about your journey as a South Asian American young woman now who's made a professional career out in the world.
Oh, wow. I am South Asian, right? Indian, and my parents, I was born and raised here. My parents immigrated here from India, and after a few years, they at some point met through mutual friends. After about a year or so, they had me. Of course, got married in between, and then I grew up. I was born in Evergreen, San Jose, so very local. Ended up moving to Cupertino, very wealthy at that time, very wealthy, affluent, white neighborhood. So if you can imagine what it was like to grow up there, I definitely stood out. I did not really get along with my peers. I was I kept to myself. I loved books.
I didn't know that about you because you're so social now.
I started.
I always learn when I do these interviews, even with people like you that I know pretty well for a whole decade.
You do.
I didn't know you in high school, and it really surprises me. It doesn't surprise me in the context of sort of being one of the only South Asian girls in class.
Right.
Stuff. But it surprises me because now you do lean in, you do boss up, your voice is out there.
I do.
Imagine you as this shy person, because I never met that person.
Well, you know, that person disappeared when I met you and Ita, because through your classes, I found my voice, because honestly, I was very shy. I was made fun of a lot. I've given a very hard time in school. So I just kind of, I was brilliant in the classroom, and I loved reading. I loved learning, but I didn't, you know, in order to escape, you know, the outside noise, I used to read books, and I used to just read and read and read. Only thing is, I didn't do my homework. So from K through 12, it was all about, so I was brilliant, and my parents even had me tested. I will, you know, I was tested. The school was like, what is wrong with this girl? And I would always test off the charts. But if I didn't have a relationship with my instructor, if I felt like they weren't invested in me, then I wouldn't invest in their class. Very bad plan, but that was what I did. And then I was kind of through a bunch of outside forces and just different choices that I had made, and some that were out of my control. I ended up at Foothill College, and I chose Foothill, even though I lived right around the corner from De Anza. I wanted to be a little bit further from home because I wanted the going away college experience, so to speak. And I wanted to be as far away from my parents as I was able to. So I used to bus it, or my mom would come and drop me off or something like that. Yeah, I was all about it. Anything that I could do on my own, Sneha was going to find a way. So I did. And then when I got to Foothill, I had my very first English class with an English teacher, Rosemary Arca. And in her class, I answered one question, and I was very shy about it. And then everyone else, and the teacher said, she goes, oh yeah, that's absolutely right. And then all eyes turned on me. And I had never had that feeling before. I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? So from there, I realized, I'm like, oh, okay, this is something that I can do. And I started to answer questions. I started to grow my confidence. And then she recommended me for a program that used to exist at Foothill College, and used to be called the PSME Center, all the way in the back in the portables, which I don't think are there anymore. And I used to tutor there. And first I started off as a tutee, but I wanted to be a perfectionist. That teacher, she pushed me hard. I thought I deserved an A. She gave me a B+, and I had to keep going back. So in Scott's class and Ita's class, I really, really strove to make sure that I got straight A's in everything. And through the whole process, I ended up, you know, kind of graduating into becoming a tutor and wanting to help. So I used to tutor people. I used to mentor. And that's where it kind of started. And then I found myself in the transfer center because it was time for me to go. So I started exploring, and I started to find out how to go to 4 universities. And a man who does not work at Foothill anymore, but he used to, he was Willie, and the teachers, professors, they may know him, but I went there, and he goes and tells me, hey, you do more work than, than someone else that I was actually paying to do. You know, you should work here. I want to find a way to make sure that you can be a part of our community. So I was budgeted into their plan, and it was only $10 an hour back then, but it was my favorite job in the whole wide world. Between going to Ita's classes, between going to Scott's classes, I was there all the time. You could find me there. And I used to help other people go to college. I would help them with their college applications, their letters, their whole process. And I would even help myself, and I would help set up events, and just do whatever I could to be involved in the college transfer process. And that was where I shone, because that's where I shined. I loved it. I realized that I loved helping others. I loved helping students get to their dreams. And then eventually, when it was my turn, I started to apply, and I got acceptance letters to every school. And this was something unheard of, because I will confess, my grades were not so great before. They were closer to this girl is smart, but she's not doing her homework, so she's going to get C's, D's, and F's on average. And my mother used to joke that I either did the work and got 100%, or I did nothing and I got an F. So imagine what it was like to raise me. So I was finally getting into schools, and my mother was like, what is going on? What's going to happen? And I applied to this reach school, and I didn't tell anybody about it. I didn't tell my parents. And this school was in LA, and it was the furthest that my parents were going to let me go. And I got into Marymount College and I got into Loyola Marymount College. And Marymount and Loyola Marymount had a partnership, but Loyola Marymount is a bigger school and it's part of the Loyola colleges. And it is huge, it is beautiful, and it is famous. And I said, you know what, if I can get in there, that's where I want to go. So I waited and I got all of these acceptance letters. And then I waited for that one letter and then they sent it and I got in. My mom didn't want to open the letter. She called me, she picked me up. I got in. It was remarkable. And in the letter, they said to me, out of 1,000 students, guys, 1,000 students into their psych program, they only took 13 kids. And I was one of the 13. I could not believe it. I was dumbfounded. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And my husband now was my boyfriend at the time. And I said, you know, I really want to go, because he wanted to go to LA. And I said, if I'm going to go to LA, I have to get into a school. So I got into a school. And he actually played a prank on me. And he said, you know what, I decided not to go. And he wanted to see what I was going to do. And I got really mad at him. And I said, what's going to happen? But then I sat down and I had to make a commitment. My parents asked me, do you still want to go to the school? And I said, you know what? I don't care if he's not going. I want to go. Oh. So I went and I put it down to my deposit. And then that day he came, picked me up and he goes, hey, I just want to let you know I was messing with you. Punched him so hard in the shoulder. I was so upset with him. I was like, what did you do to me? But I told him, I said, I don't care if you weren't going to come. I had a whole plan. I was going to that school. No one's going to stop me. So I went. I studied psychology and I found out something about myself. I love psych and all of my professors were amazing. But one thing that was true is that they had never actually gone out in the field and helped people. They had only done research. And I realized that as great as the brain was, I wanted to work with people. So I took a sociology class and then I fell in love. I said, ooh, I like psych, always will love psych. But I love sociology too, because I believe that it's all about that nurture versus nature, which I first had the discussion in Ita's class. And we said, you know, it's both. It's not just one or the other. So I said, hey, this is the best of both worlds. Combine it. So I officially graduated in sociology, always have a love of psychology. Maybe I'll get a PhD one day. And I loved it. It was amazing. I wanted to, from that moment forward, work with people 100% from the outside in. I believe that you have an impact upon the world, but I also believe that the world has an impact on you. And it's about finding that pretty balance, right? And that's what I did. So when I was at LMU, I was invited to help one of my professors with a research project to work with NGOs in India who are working with girls to inspire them and try to give them access to a quality education. And I remember that summer I came home and I told my parents, thank you so much for raising me here. The only difference between me and those girls is that I grew up here. Because if I had grown up there, anything could have happened to me. And I'm not saying that the US is super, super safe all the time, but it is way safer than my home country is. And as much as I look like full-blooded Indian, which I am, it would have been a very different experience for me. And I am forever grateful that they chose the US, because as challenging as it is here, I can definitely pave my way here. So yeah, as a South Asian, I made my way to Foothill College. I made my way to Loyola Marymount University, stayed there for about 2.5 years. And oh my gosh, I never looked back. I had the time of my life. It was phenomenal. And in fact, a pivotal moment of advocating for myself, which I talk about sometimes, is when my dad lost his job for the second time. And I wanted to switch my major officially to sociology. And my parents, very Asian, very Indian, had never heard of sociology. What are you going to do with it? What's your life going to be? Are you sure about this? My mother was ready to pull her support. She's like, your dad is not paying for this. You're not, nope, you have 2.5 years. You need to finish. You're done. And I said, you know what? I respect it. I understand, but I need to do this for myself. So if you're not going to help me, I will find a way. And my dad was still willing to help me, but you know, I was like, no, this is my plan. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I can do. I had to have a whole plan set up. So I did it. I got in, I got out very, very quickly. Most students do not do that. LA is very distracting. I was a bookworm. I made it happen. In and out, I got my degree. Towards the end of my program, I reached out to Ita and Scott and my other contacts at Foothill College, and turns out that they were in need of a possible job. And they said, just come and meet up with me and we'll figure something out. So I met with the dean of admissions at that time, and she gave me a job. It didn't last forever, but it was enough. I was there for about 6 or 7 months, and I haven't lived with my parents since I was 19, 20 years old. And it was amazing. It was amazing because I was finally living my life on my own terms. Okay. And as an Indian woman, as an Asian woman, as a woman of color, just period, it has not been an easy journey, but I did it. And I was so, so, so grateful. So once I hit Foothill, I stayed there for a few months. Then I ended up working in what they call urban populations. I went to East Palo Alto. I worked at the Boys and Girls Club. Then I ended up tutoring, and then I worked at that inner city school in San Jose. Oh my gosh, I have just gone from place to place to place. In every place that I've been, I want you all to know that my goal has just been to make sure that my colleagues are happy, that my kids are happy, and that I'm able to give back from my experiences. Because if I can be in a position to help others rise up, my mission is fulfilled. It doesn't matter how much money I have, but if I do make money, which I'm doing with my business, then I will use that to give back. I will use that to mentor others, from youth to women to just people who want to find their piece of happy, people who are ready to prioritize themselves. I say it all the time, prioritize you. Stop letting the outside world dictate your little, your next steps. As Scott often says, I pivoted quite a few times, and I pivoted based on what I thought was right, not based on what anyone else thought was right. And sometimes other people didn't agree with me, but it ended up being the right move for myself. And that's exactly the point that I'm trying to make is, oh my gosh, if looking back to the girl that I was when I first stepped on Foothill College campus, when I first took that, back when they were giving tours pre-COVID, right? It was amazing. It was beautiful. It was sunny. I fell in love with the campus. I thought, oh my gosh, it was my favorite place in the whole wide world. And now whenever I go to Foothill, I still get chills. Even though I no longer work there, even though I'm no longer a student there, I still get chills. And I'm always asking Scott and Nita, do you need an assistant? Do you need anything? I'm more than happy to just come once or twice a week, because I love Foothill so, so, so much. So I will always be an owl. Exactly. That'll always be a part of who I am. And, it's amazing. It's just amazing. I think for me, education really did set me free. It really, really did set me free. And I believe that education is a tool, and it's about how you use it. I believe anyone can get a degree, but it's about how you're going to use that degree. Are you going to use it for good? Or are you going to use it as just a stamp on your resume? Or are you really going to utilize it to rise not only yourself up, but to raise up others as well? So that's kind of a little bit about how I got here.
That's the complicated journey. I wanted to introduce my colleague, Professor Ida Lynn, who's here, a professor of psychology at Foothill College and another of Sneha's longtime teachers and mentors. So it's great to have you here too. And I'll let you get a word in edgewise pretty soon, maybe. But two things stood out to me in this conversation that I hadn't put together before. And I really want to call them out, Sneha, because it was really fascinating to me. Okay. And again, knowing now that you were a shy person in high school, in middle school, because you're kind of like the only brown kid in the, like that is so frequently the case. And it's hard, and it's silencing, right? Yeah. And how the fact that you understand what it's like to have a mind and a heart, but not be able to put it out there, not be able to stand up, is so essential to what you do now, right? So when you're telling young women to boss up, to lean in, to speak out, it comes literally from your own experience. And I saw you when you were sort of already coming out of that shell. And then I did see what the Transfer Center and what working at the Transfer Center did for you. I remember. I like to joke, and I think Ida, my colleague, is a person like this too. I think we're all teacher creatures. Yeah. That's my little pun. Yeah. But I really am. There was this point in graduate school where, very much like you, I realized, well, You know, I love doing research, and I still do it, and I still write books, and it's like, it's not like that's not a big part of who I am, but some other part of me is, I mean, I'm still fundamentally a teacher creature.
Mhm.
And that's not true of all university professors. It was one reason that I was really thrilled to come to teach at a place like Foothill College. But I hear that in you, and I see it now more strongly, that you really know what it's like to be that quiet kid. And you know how much it matters to have, you know, a Professor Lynn start to call on you, start to see you as a human being, start to see that you have a voice, that you're really there. And then, as you were saying, if you didn't have a relationship with the teacher, then you didn't have a class, right? So I think it's very interesting always to try to connect the dots in this way. But for me, that's really fundamental to where you are now. So I wanted to kind of have you go ahead and introduce the book, Asian Women Who Boss Up. And I want you to go ahead and screen share that if you could, and begin to show us kind of what you're doing in your business. But I really want people to see the book, because I think there's such a fascinating line between being the young woman who needs that kind of outreach and who did get it at Foothill College. Yay us. I mean, I hope that we do that. And I hope we do it well. We would like to think so. Mm-hmm. But then turning around and doing it for other people, which is another thing I would like to think you got from Foothill College, right? Like our mission now, you know, President Nguyen has really helped us underline that we want students to do service learning, to learn through service at Foothill College. And you're sort of a living exemplar of somebody who's made that her mission in life. Thank you very much. That's one reason I like to hang out with you. Even though I don't have to hang around and give you grades anymore.
No, I know. I think it's, wow, it's always like, it's hilarious. Like you know, they met my husband before he was my husband. And I know that, I remember the first time Ito met my husband was when I was putting on an event. It was a transfer college event. And I said, oh, this is my boyfriend. And I saw her kind of assessing him, because she knew that I was like Miss Education, Miss Study. And he was just like, you know, and he's been in the education system for a long time. And I encouraged him. I said, please get a degree. Please do this, because it's really important for you. And for him as a Black man, that's very, very important for us all to be educated, especially as people of color. But he was the one that pushed me to go to college, because I did not want to. I said, I have had a horrible experience. No, thanks. I'm out. And he was like, no, you need to do this. And he was the one who pushed me. And even to this day, he's like, he jokes, he goes, what kind of a monster did I make out of you? You just can't get enough anymore. And I'm like, well, you know, this is your fault. Blame yourself. So, you know, but yeah, no, the three of us definitely, you know, Professor Lynn, Scott, we've gone from student teacher to colleagues to friends. And it's because of those relationships. And I really urge students to create those relationships with instructors that you feel a bond with, because they can teach you, but you can teach them. And if you really nurture that relationship, you never know what can unfold. So just be open to it. Don't just see them as your professor who gives you grades. See them as someone that you can rely on. Yes, because I know that the three of us, and I really only talk to the two of them. I don't really talk to anyone else. And if I need something, I reach out, I send them a text or something, just making sure that we're all okay. And, you know, we've come to really love each other and have a bond. And I don't think I knew that was going to happen when I first stepped foot in either one of their classes. But that's what happens if you're just open to the world of possibilities, because as people, as human beings, we're all about connections, and connections are so, so, so crucial. And, you know, the both of them, I'll say about my relationship with the both of them is that they were my safe space. If I needed anything, it was like, can I go to you? Can I talk to you? Can I check in? And, you know, it's like, there were so many times, like I've seen Scott over the years, virtually, what have you, in person, even Ita, like we've had conversations that spanned relationships, life, I don't know, kids, everything, you know, and she became one of my greatest confidants, and we used to talk to each other about everything. And It started off on school topics. Like I would go, oh my gosh, she was so nice to me and I was probably so frustrating. I would go to her before an exam and I would try to run it down in my head. I was like, so are you going to ask this? What about this? What about this? What about this? And I would overanalyze the exam before it even came to. And she's like, you're going to be fine. I said, no, I need to know every single option. And she was so patient with me. And even Scott, if I didn't get an A on a paper, I was like, yeah. Why did you take a little point off? I would go back to him and I would spend hours and he would say, okay, work on this. And I would work on it and I would come right back. And he nurtured that. And he helped make me a better writer. And Ita made me a better, more compassionate, open person. And I used to mentor and tutor kids in the class and take her lectures and I would decorate them and design them. And I should have sold them. But I took notes for her class. You remember for that child development class? And my peers, like once they figured it out, one of my classmates was pregnant and she wasn't there for the final exam, but I gave her all of my notes, and I think she ended up doing pretty well. So it's supporting each other. Community is everything.
So Etta, why don't you unmute for just a second? Because here we are. We're talking about you, and I think we should let you in for a minute. And see what if you want to add any, I know that you're, I might have to be the one to unmute you here. Hold on. Just to unmute, try that. See if that helps. And there we go.
Yes. Yeah, freedom to speak now. It's just like madly typing.
That's the thing about Zoom. Yeah, we have to have permission to speak. We certainly gave permission to speak to Sneha. Like now, sort of like her husband, we're like, what have we done?
No, it's actually good.
He's out of the bottle, like, woohoo!
To be all omnipotent and have the control of whether I can unmute or unmute you. Hey, Scott, just to let you know that stop calling me Professor Lynn, okay? I thought we were on a first name basis.
Oh, it's because we're on this Zoom thing. I don't normally do that to you, Ida. So.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry because I call you
Scott.
I'm just
in my formal hosting mode. Because
okay, and then I'm on a first name basis with people. So Sneha, that's just how I go, how I roll, and I know not everyone was like
me
that.
Too.
But
you know me, I'm like Dr. Scott at best. So, but there is this kind of thing. Like it's amazing how many people tune in on these later. So yeah, I'm sort of a little bit more formal in my that. I haven't suddenly decided that I'm going to hold you at arm's distance and call you Dr. Lynn. So anyway, yeah. Do you have any first memories of? Are you as surprised as I was that Sneha was quite so shy once upon a time?
Oh no, we talked about it. Yeah, Sneha and I talked about it because we share this history. Growing up in a very white community, I was very, we were just like two peas in a pod.
Yeah, we were very similar.
I did too.
Oh wait, you were shy too?
Oh my gosh, I was so shy.
Really?
Shy. Yeah.
I didn't know this about you either. I mean, again, like you say, it fits in terms of like being the Asian kid in a white majority school. I mean, I get that part of it. Yeah. It's just, I know, I didn't know you then. I know you now. I do know you as Professor Lynn, Ida, my colleague.
Yeah.
That's very fascinating to me. I think that's a very interesting theme. And it's one reason that events like this are so important, and that books like Sneha's book are so important. Because I do think that, like, I think we just have to keep saying it. Like, stand up, speak out, boss up, lean in. All of that stuff does make a difference. Yeah,
I agree. And I think that's why, Sneha and I connected was because, she saw me as this, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but, here I am standing in front of the class and, lecturing and this and that. And when we start to get to know each other a little bit more, it's just like, I hear where you're coming from, because I was there, I was not the one that was, raising my hand and, be silent and don't make waves. And this is a cultural thing that also, you're not supposed to speak out, and you're a woman, or you're a girl. Yeah. And so it's not your place to do that. And then, on top of it, you got the family dynamics. And then on top of it, you got the greater macro environment of the dominant culture, right? And seeing you as an other, even though we were both born here, and so that's the thing is that there's a lot of this going on within the family context and being, children of immigrants. We're not supposed to stick out, right? And you're supposed to be like quiet and, obey. And this whole idea of filial piety, that comes in and deference to parents. And there's a lot going on, very different though, from my brother who's older and who's a firstborn male. So there's a lot of interesting dynamics there within the cultural context of being in a dominant culture of white, right? And you don't look white, and so you are in this other group. So that was part of, I think that's when we started really talking, when we got into some of the topics in psychology, really kind of going down there and getting more, sharing our experiences. And it says like, I didn't, this person that's standing from in front of the classroom, that took a while to get there, and I'm still working on it, right? It's not like it just happened. It was a journey, and that building of that confidence. So when we talked, we did start getting into our parents. We did start getting into, relationships where you're not dating in the right ethnic group, it's like that. We had this conversation. I think we shed some tears and things like that.
Yeah, we got very...
so there's, a lot of this, pressure and what's expected, and then, how, I want to put my voice out there. How do I do that? And, I mean, there was just a lot of things. And as I said, I think it's really important what Sneha was pointing out was that this is really, it wasn't just me, teaching her. She was teaching me. We're sharing, right? It's reciprocal. And that's what's important, is that's why I think when they're in the classroom, yes, I have expertise in certain areas just because I had a little bit more education, but think about the education that everyone's bringing into that classroom and how are we defining that? So being open and just like, wow, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for helping me grow as an individual. And so that was what was really important. And I saw, it was just beautiful to see Sneha just unravel and just become, and she's continuing to grow into who she is, right? And so I love that about you, is that you're willing and courageous to do that, even though there was a lot of obstacles along the way, and so, and seeing you just like, I know this stuff. And I was like, I know you know this stuff. I know this about you. You need to start believing in yourself, right? And then the students were like, oh my gosh, like, who's that person that's doing really well in the class? I was like, you should talk to her because she has really great skills, and then you would, and then I just saw that mentoring start kicking in. And you were the go-to person for all your classmates. They're like, where's she? Like, I need to talk to her. So they were coming to see me, but they're like, I'm going to go to her first. And I'm like, go, and learn from her. So I just love that. And I was happy to be part of that. So thank you.
Well, I'm just realizing it's really lucky that I can talk to you both in the same Zoom space here, because hearing that message resonate, right? Like you're further along in your career as an educator, Ida. Sneha is still in some ways just starting out as a young woman starting out in education, and yet the commonality of experience and where this matters. Sneha, I think this is the perfect segue for the book. So I want you to screen share this book because it's all about this. That's the thing, right? And Sneha and a number of other young women are in this book, and I think this completely underlines why I was very excited to see you as part of this collection, and why I think this is like worth shouting from the rooftops.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Here is a little video.
Oh, cool. International Women of Color Who Boss Up. Yes.
Yeah, we got bestseller a couple of weeks ago on Amazon.
Yeah, just released like 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, it released, yes, thank you. It released 2 weeks ago on Amazon. So it's myself and others. And the woman who helped us put together the book, she interviewed all of us. And all of our stories are in there in interview form. And you'll get to know myself, but you guys have already gotten to know even more than what is in the book. But it's the fact that my name is on there, that I'm a part of it. And it's just the first of many. I intend to do quite a bit more. this is just the beginning, and I'm already working on projects, retreats, things that I can do in addition to my daily day-to-day, because I'm someone that likes to do a million and one things. And one thing that I will say is, like, to women everywhere is if you seek a partnership, if you want to have a relationship, make sure that your partner knows this about you in the beginning, and make sure that they are always supportive of you. I am very blessed to have a partner that from the very beginning has just said, you do what you're going to do and I will be here. And he has never stopped me from doing anything. In fact, the other day he said, I'm a silent partner in everything that you do. I said, absolutely you are, because he is there to help me brainstorm ideas. He's there for me to share and vent about my crazy days. And he works in tech. And as many of you may or may not know, they're not supposed to talk about their days when they work in tech. But I work with people, so I have lots of funny stories to share. So at the end of the day, I need someone to haul it out with. And he is my person. And he's been doing it for years. And make sure that you have a partner that supports you on your journey, because I am so grateful that I have someone that supports me to the degree that he does. And he knows that, you know, even with a family, we do not have kids right now. We're cat parents, but he he encourages me to follow my dreams. And he always says, I'm going to be right here. And we have that agreement with each other. We support each other 100%. Whatever he does, I'm a silent partner. Whatever I do, he's a silent partner. And it goes both ways, because that's what love is. Life is going to change. We've been together for going on 12 years in July, married for 4. And a lot of people would say that we're young because we say we've only been married 4 years, but we have grown together over a decade. We have experienced death. We've experienced life. We've experienced hardships. We've experienced stresses. When we were in LA, you know how much of a nerd I am? If I ever had a free hour or so, I would make my way over to his lectures and hang out in his classes, because I like learning so much. And his professors thought I was a student in their class, and I would sometimes guest lecture. That's how much of a nerd I am, but that's how much I love learning. And he never held it against me. He thought it was great because he had his own personal tutor. So it's like, what I'm trying to say is, if you seek a partnership, if you seek a life in academia or whatever it is, and if you want a partnership, make sure that your partner, whoever they are, supports you 100,000%, never tries to change you, but only tries to encourage and enhance your life. That's my one piece of advice is, yeah.
Okay, now I want to screen share something from your book. And I didn't tell you I was going to do. Well, I mean, I don't think you'll. I have a Kindle page that I want to screen share.
Yes,
because I thought this quote was. I mean, I do think. I mean, so the book is a series of interviews with international women who boss up, and this title "Boss Up" is part of a series and a whole methodology and a whole philosophy about young women needing to step up, to boss up. And you can do the definition for me.
Okay.
But I thought that this was an amazing paragraph of prose that just like leapt out at me. And you say astonishing things actually quite a bit of the time, Sneha, but I thought this one was particularly astonishing. So give me just a minute and I'm going to screen share it, because I'm all ready to go here. And I think I've got the right thing. All right. So this is in the middle of Sneha's interview. And she's talking about wellness. She's talking about taking care of yourself. And then you get to this thing about white noise, which I thought was remarkable and really memorable. So I'm just going to read it to you.
Go for it.
And then I would like you and Ed both to comment on this, because I think this is a remarkable way to frame the issue, particularly in the moment in which we live, right?
Right.
In the moment of Me Too, Black Lives Matter, of pushing back against anti-Asian hatred, which is in epidemic proportions right now, right? Like, especially in the moment in which we live, this really struck me as something powerful. And as a concept, I'd like to keep resonating out there, or help to keep resonating out there. Okay, so you say in order for someone to pursue their true path, they have to shut the door on all the white noise in their life. And then you go on to explain white noise can be your family, society, or even your job, collectively sending you subtle messages about who you are meant to be. Women for centuries have allowed themselves to be talked out of their dreams or goals when we shared them with the world. In reality, many of us have had this hidden spark inside of us, this secret dream life we wanted to pursue. And yet most of us have shared this dream life with someone who talked us out of it. And just like that, the dream disappears and transforms into something more quote unquote practical. So tell me more about, and I know that this is kind of, I mean, I'm taking it as sort of a pun. There is the concept of white noise. Like if you're walking down, if Sneha and I are walking down a street, a busy street next to El Camino Royale, and the traffic noise drowns us out, that's like white noise. So white noise is kind of like the background roar that can drown out whatever you're trying to pay attention to, and you can't hear it because there's so much background noise in there. It's like the concept of static on a radio, all right? But I think that the accidental but very poignant pun in a social justice sense of white noise is important also. So I'm going to ask you to pick it up from there and talk a little bit more about that concept. Notice how it underlines how important it is who your partner is. Like you and Michael are so, like, it's fantastic. You're one of my favorite couples. And it's so true. I've watched you. You're not lying about it.
No,
I guess the truth. You two have supported each other and pushed each other. I've seen you push him. I've seen him push you.
Yep.
And that is exactly what you need in a relationship. But what really pains me is I've seen the other happen so often, right? Where you go to your family, you go to your partner, you go to your friends, you go to your teachers. Mm-hmm. Say, this is my dream. And they say, no.
Yeah.
And they crush it. Mm-hmm. Right. So anyways, time for you to pick this up now that I've given you that little cue. And thank you for saying that so clearly and beautifully. This is one reason I think this book deserves all the attention it's getting.
Thank you. Well, I mean, Ita, you, I'm sure you're clearly having some comments. Why don't you go first? I talk too much anyways. This is, I know this is about me, but it's not about me. So, do you?
Ita, are you ready for that? We have to unmute you. Here, let's ask you to unmute. I can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I was just writing some stuff here.
Oh, yeah, no, I love it. I love it.
And I think I think what's really powerful about your words here are that the white noise is constant. It's there, it's consistent, and sometimes it's very subtle, sometimes it's not as subtle, sometimes it's going to be right in your face, right? But it's always there, and it could be very close, someone that's very close to you. It could be the wider, society, sort of the macro. And so I think that's what to me really resonates, is that it surrounds you on all sorts of levels, right? And all different types of relationships. And it is the sort of expectations, the gender, norms that we have. What is your role, and how is that going to be defined? And then putting those expectations onto us, with it compounded with cultural expectations, right? And so, I feel like what you say here is just is incredibly powerful. In relating it to the not just to your experience here, but also to social justice issues in our society as well. So I think going back to your relationship, and with Scott talking about that earlier, is that the beauty of your relationship with your husband is that what I've seen is that you both are prioritizing yourself, but then you're allowing each other to have that freedom, and then prioritizing each other. So it's that importance, as opposed to someone giving up for another, right? And that's often what we see sometimes in relationships. So, I'll give up myself so you can pursue your dreams. And that's what's I think is very special about your relationship, is that you're both prioritizing yourselves, but then you're also prioritizing each other, and that's not in conflict. So you're not giving up your own selves to be with the other person.
Absolutely. And I'm going to go ahead and show the cover and the table of contents. Women who boss up in life, section 1, women who boss up in wellness, women who boss up in business, empowering professionals to move up and on, trusted business advisors, monetizing social media, helping women boost their confidence, helping students and millennials manifest with your money, how to use money that you do when you do start to make money in a career, how to really leverage that, the meeting that changed my life. So this is a wonderful, it's a wonderful spectrum. And look at the spectrum of young women who are represented in this. Like, look at that amazing group that Sneha gets to be a part of. So I think it's a beautiful and amazing and powerful message that you're part of, but I don't know that you could have crystallized it better than you did in that paragraph. And that's one of those paragraphs, like you could sit down for 10 years and try to write that paragraph. And I don't think it would come out any better than that it just came out of this intense conversation that you had in that interview. So again, I just want to sort of applaud it. And I do think, as Ida says, it underlines that some of the white noise is this cultural positioning, right? As a woman of color, as a South Asian woman, as a female, so it's gendered. Mm-hmm. And that's where the social justice part of it really spoke out powerfully to me in a way that I thought was really beautiful. And I think it's so beautiful that this is what you do now to help others, right? Like, you learned it in yourself. We watched you learn it. Mm-hmm. Ida and I both watched you learn how to do this at Foothill College. Yes. And now you do it for others, right? And that, like, what an amazing thing to do with your life. All right. And by the way, you were talking about all the challenges that you pushed through, and Ida was mentioning them. But like, you got through quarantine and COVID, and you launched a business, and you're in this book, like in the middle of quarantine.
I know. You know what?
Half of the world is on its knees, right? Like, seriously. And we all know how hard and often tragically people have had to struggle. And I know that Lowe's not easy for you, but I also know, like, look what you accomplished in this quarantine year. Like, wow.
Speaking of what I've accomplished, let me go ahead and share something with you all, Scott, if you don't mind.
Well, yeah, I think I don't mind, but you haven't told me what it is.
You don't mind. Okay, fine. So I have to tell you the details. I can't.
You mean a screen share? Okay, here, hold on. I have to unshare.
You do. Just say stop share at the bottom.
Yeah, let's see. I must be covering up the stop share button.
Yeah, it's probably at the bottom.
There it is. Okay, yeah, it's down at the bottom. There we go. Now we got it. I got rid of it.
Okay, so let me, oops, sorry. Okay, let me go to share screen. Okay, so my site is actually, I just had it redesigned. So let me share that with you all. So I'm going to take you there. So this is, I'm going to share this with you. So this is my site. And I'm going to go through, first, I'm actually going to take you to my blog because
you're a writing student.
Because I'm a writing student. I can't stop. I have a serious problem. So this is something. So look at what I have here. You said, Sneha, the year of COVID. So I'm going to give you a special little thing. Okay. So it's a little bit long, but I can actually just, okay, this is something that you all can go check out. Scott, I'm happy to read a little bit to you if you like, but I wrote.
Yeah, why don't you just nutshell it? It looks, I see the part about less than a year ago, I made the decision to quit, and I was the
right. Right. So Scott, I say this because Scott gave the perfect transition to this, because he said, well, you did this all in the year of COVID, and he is right. Okay. Because what I did is, you have my homepage, you have my icon, this is me, my services, all this stuff, my bestseller, right? So this is something that I've been working on, of course, a way to reach me, but it's also, there's a link on my Instagram as well. But essentially what it is that a year ago, a little bit over a year ago, I was working the inner city school that Scott was talking about. I had worked there for many years, and both Ita and Scott know this. And I had a big hope going in, and I did what I could, but I had trouble pulling away from it because I really believed that I could change the system from the inside. And unfortunately, after having the time of my life, after struggling, after growing, after doing what I had to do, it came to a point where I realized that I just couldn't do it anymore, and that this wasn't my end game. And I couldn't stay in a place where I didn't feel like I was going to grow anymore, where I didn't feel appreciated, where I felt like my energy was being drained out of me day after day after day. In fact, one of my closest friends, then colleague, she even said to me after leaving, she's like, "Oh my God, you look like you again." And I hadn't been sleeping. I had been stressing out. It was a really hard year for me, financially, personally. It was really, really hard. And I was trying to be the superwoman. Okay. I talk about that in my book too, that I was empowering my inner superwoman, but without channeling that help that I should have been asking for help. And I wasn't even going to my husband because we were at a point where I was like, he's going through stuff of his own. I don't want to stress him out. I'm going to shoulder the whole world's problems on myself. And then it came to a breaking point. I decided to quit my job. I found a school district that I loved. I was supposed to be there until the end of the school year as an interim English teacher. And then guess what happened? The school district met. COVID was announced. News outlets were going crazy. Everything shut down. I lost my job again. And this time it wasn't my choice. So I decided to invest in myself. So I decided that I have a gift. I need to do this. It doesn't matter what it takes. And I was going to do it. And then I decided to start plugging away. Every single day I was doing something. I met with a businesswoman who helped me put together this book. In fact, I introduced her to the woman who was going to help her take the book to another level because I had interviewed with her a year prior. So essentially, in a nutshell, I used COVID to redefine myself, to repivot, and to take my life in a whole other direction. I even said goodbye to my independence, my home, and moved in with my in-laws for about 8 months. And they were amazing. I was able to stay with them. I was able to even have our cats there. It was a crazy, amazing, incredible time of transformation where I pressed pause. I regrouped. I wasn't even on social media for about a year. And then I moved back out on my own with my husband and our cats. And we said, okay, time to start over. Suddenly, my book was about to be released in about 6 months. I was still scared. I didn't really tell anyone. I kept everything under wraps and I just kept plugging away. And I was working for a nonprofit organization, working with young people, mentoring them, mentoring my colleagues. And I said, okay, let's just see what this year is going to be like. And I did it every single day. My project with them is now over. My business is taking off. And now I'm here sitting with all of you. I mean, Foothill is where it started, and Foothill is always going to be my home. And what I tell my clients is that anyone that wants to work with me, I'm speaking from my experience. I'm not telling you anything that I've never done before. I have, from what Ita said, dated out of my race, married out of my race. But he was my person. Do you understand that any person that you pick, they have to be your person on the inside, right? The genetic code, that has to be in alignment, and then everything's great, because life is unpredictable. Life is unpredictable. And we made a pact that no matter what happened, we would always choose each other. And that's something that you have to do, and that we're always friends. We genuinely enjoy hanging out with each other and poking fun and doing things like that, because everything else is out of your control. The only thing that's within your control is how you treat each other. And my career moves, oh my gosh, my business is taking off. I have books that I'm selling. I am setting up retreats in the next few months. There's so much that I'm doing, but it started with that girl that had that dream to help people. It started with that girl that said, you know what, other people think it's crazy. Other people don't think it's true, even my own parents. So I stopped telling them. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't even really tell you know, anybody, because I kept it to myself, because I said, you know, if it takes off, then I'll talk about it. If not, I'm just going to keep it to myself. And that's what I did. And the only person that really knew about all the steps was my husband, because he never told me I was crazy. So that's exactly what I did. That is exactly what I did. I just kept pushing through and doing all of that. And now I get to sit here and talk about it with all of you. And that's what being a boss up woman means. That's what being a boss lady means. That's what being an entrepreneur means, is to push forward.
Yeah, in fact, let's kind of, we need to start wrapping up just for the students that are here, but
sure.
Give me a definition of boss up, because that's the title of the book, and it's a beautiful title.
Sure.
And it's a concept that you're helping to push out there, which I think is a beautiful and amazing. I mean, as soon as I heard it, since I'm one of the lessons I love to teach is you got to have a great title.
Absolutely.
And the title has to tell you what it's about. It can't just be my essay.
Right.
It's an awful lot of my essay. So, so I'm actually going to screen share it again, just because I think it's a beautiful, I think the cover says a lot about what this is.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit more, like if here you are on the Today Show or whatever, and I say, so what does it mean to boss up?
So boss up means to take your inner gift, share it with the world, and say, screw you to anyone that tells you no. That's what it means. Because honestly, I'm talking about women in particular, but just we as people, we tend to, like I said in the book, we tend to share, we get excited about something. Oh my gosh, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. And then someone shuts it down. And then because you want to please them more than you want to please yourself, you choose their happiness over yours. And bossing up means that you no longer give quite as much care to what they think. And you finally decide that what you think of yourself and what you think about your steps matters more. And that's exactly what bossing up means. And that's exactly what I did. That's exactly what all these other women did. And that's what we're doing. And if you look up any of us, we've done it. We are living the life. We're balancing it all, but we're doing it for ourselves. And anyone else that wants to join along for the ride, they can join along for the ride. But if you have anything negative to say, you can keep it to yourself.
Wow. That was a beautiful definition. Wow. Ida, do you want to speak to this also? In terms, I know you haven't, this is sort of your first exposure to this concept, but I do think it's an amazing message to put out into the world. And I'm so proud that Sneha is part of amplifying it at this national level, where she can put up pages about being New York Times bestseller in categories and all that kind of stuff. And I probably have to ask unmute again. Let's see, I have all this power that I didn't give to Ida. I should have given it to her.
Well, I'll start by saying my essay. That's the title of it, my essay.
That's the perfect thing.
I'll try not to submit that paper into you, Scott. We'll try to change the title next time. I just want to commend Sneha for having the courage to pursue her dreams. It's easy to say, it's harder to do, because you are going to get knocked down along the way. You are going to have people that are going to doubt, whether or not that's the right thing for you, right? Because again, the expectations and the rules and this is what you're supposed to do. And it's like, well, I don't really want to do that, right? And then being able to step out of that. I mean, we can be in comfort. I mean, like we can be not comfort, but we can go along, right? And that might make us like, okay, we're not going to have as many bumps in the road, right? There's going to be less of that. But then the inner part of us is the part that's just like, well, I'm not really being who I am. And how, and that's the tough part of being able to step out of that and saying, you know what, I'm going to go there, and that takes a lot of courage. So that's what I would say is like, having the willingness and the desire to step out of that and to know that you're going to get some negative feedback. That there's going to be people that say you can't do it, and to pursue that and pursue it in a fashion that is in a very, I would say, it's not like in your face, but it's more like, this is who I am. You know, I'm going to own that, and being respectful about it, but then also having other people respect you along the way. I think there's it's a fine line there, you know, because some people will be, you know, like if you go about it in a certain way, some people are like going to get turned off, but I don't feel like that is the way in which you're sharing your story, right? And so so thank you, you know, again, for in regards to, you know, it just, when we talk about this, I just think about just everything that's going on in the world. And you know, I was just talking to a student the other day during an interview that she's doing for a documentary for the symposium that's coming up, and talking about our educational system, you know, and how it's set up. And talking about white supremacy, right? And so when we were getting and talking about our educational system, you know, I think something that's important to remind ourselves of is that we're trying to be visible in this invisible world, right? We're being told to be, you know, silent. We're not going to talk about our histories, and this is something that you've talked about too earlier with Mei Lee as well, Scott, is that if we're not talking about our history, right, then we're basically being erased. And there's a whole segment of the United States that's being erased because we are talking about our histories. And so how can we understand what's going on today if we're not being real and authentic about what our history is? So those are something that I think, like, you know, individually, when we talk about the struggles and obstacles that we have, but also the wider societal effects of systemic racism is something that we always have to come back to. And whether or not we want to have those uncomfortable conversations, some people don't. Okay, and but that's why I think this is the beauty of this bossing up, is like, yes, we do need to talk about this. Yes, this is who I am. And that's when you're making the invisible visible. So I thank you for that, Sneha, for doing that and having the courage to do that.
Yes, and I had two thoughts come to mind for me. One's that there's, I don't know, Ida, if you're old enough to remember this, there was a wonderful bumper sticker that you know, sort of a slogan back when we did bumper stickers, which was long before the original memes, before you could put them online. But there was one that I always thought was one of the best ever, which is that well-behaved women rarely make history.
Oh yeah.
And I think Boss Up speaks to that, right? That, like, this message that you have to behave, you have to be pleasing, you have to be appealing, you have to be quiet, you have to defer, like all that. Nobody makes history that way, right? Well-behaved women rarely make history.
Right.
And a little more than a year ago, when Dr. Cornel West was on the stage, before COVID, right? Back when we could actually be on a campus, which we soon will be again. Dr. Cornel West was standing on a stage behind a podium where the great James Baldwin had also spoken, right? And in reference to the oncoming forces of darkness, he said, artists respond to crisis with courage and creativity. And that really, he said many beautiful things that day in that auditorium. But that one has also stuck with me. And I think I'm bringing it up because I think that's the way you have responded to this year. I think you responded with courage and creativity, and I admire and applaud it. And I want to just thank you again for, you know, always stepping up for Foothill